So group two's presenting today, right?
Yeah.
All ready to go? How's everybody else?
It's not gonna look like that, but I want to. You have one slide.
Yeah, I mean, you can think of groups, right? Nerds, jocks, whatever, but think of like what makes those groups psychological, right? You're thinking of either people coming in because of social forces, like what kind of social forces make people join groups? Is it anxiety? Is it conformity, trying to conform to individuals? Is it isolation? Yeah, so I mean, this things up the feelings of being part of groups, maybe some other anxieties about not being part of things.
What happens if they're not part of groups?
Yeah, I left her free reign so you can just kind of think of like all the psychological factors, but there are a lot of social sort of things, conformity, force, leadership roles, hormones and things going on, right? Sporting activities, all sorts of things. Yeah, you could just, whatever you can think of, the mechanisms. Think more of the mechanisms outside of the groups, right? The groups are obvious. Think of like, what are the forces that make you want to do it? And probably just talk about your personal experiences too. Like, how did you feel?
What kind of groups are you in?
Yeah, mean girls, smart girls. All right, so continuing on with personality. All right, so remember last class we talked about all of Freud's controversial psychosexual stages, right? You attributed a lot of things to those stages of development. Now we'll look at some different perspectives. All right, so we say part of our personality is we tend to defend ourselves, right? And so defend ourselves against what? Well, in our minds we have an ideal self, right? In our mind we have a vision of ourselves. And we're like, well, is that accurate? Like who we actually think we are? Personally, is that an accurate assessment? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe we ask other people, like, hey, let me ask your mom and dad about it. Let me ask your best friends. Let me ask your teachers, right? Let me ask people who know you about you. And they might say some things that'll conflict with what you're talking about. You're like, no, I'm not a liar, right? I'm not a cheater. I'm a nice person, right? I'm wonderful. And then we go ask all these people and they're like, not really, right? That's kind of a lie. You're like, well, what's the conflict, right? Right, well, we have to try to defend, right? Because once again, we don't like unpleasant feelings. So even if who we think we are is an illusion, we're like, oh, it's not real. Who you believe you are versus how you really are. You say you might have some defense mechanisms, and that's to reduce anxiety by unconsciously distorting reality. So you distort the reality to make yourself comfortable, right? You're like, I'm not that big of a liar, right? Actually nice, etc., but you're maybe coping or defending in that way, the ego. The ego is very strong, and the ego doesn't want us to feel bad, even about ourselves. Right? So we defend. So that's how people get aggressive about things, right? Like, hey, you offended me. You're like, well, not really. That's true. You are. Right? And then we got repression, which underlies all other defense mechanisms, banishes anxiety, arousing impulses, and name other defense mechanisms. So when we're repressed, we kind of hide. We hide it, right? We subdue it, we cover it up, put a blanket over it, and we're like, oh, you know, hopefully this just goes away, right? This thing about me, my personality just goes away. And remember we say that's another illusion, right? That's delusional thinking. Nothing goes away. Everything needs to be expressed or managed. Remember, Freud said that all of this is energy, psychic, mental, physical energy. And so sometimes he theorized that there's energies we get trapped. Kind of like you ever go get like a full body massage or something, and you kind of like it relaxes you. You know, you're like, well, what did you do? They're like, oh, we got all this energies was kind of trapped in your muscles and joints. We got you all released. You're like, oh, okay. I had a lot of tension built. The same thing happens mentally. We have a lot of tension. That means we are kind of repressing it. We're hiding some stuff, blanketing it, right? And they say, well, what happens? Well, it says, it is often incomplete such that repressed urges may appear as symbols in dreams or slips of the tongue. Because we say it's unconscious. So if we repress the stuff, it goes into the subconscious and it comes out on its own at random times, usually in dreams. And that's why Freud said dreams were so important, because they were repressed urges. There were things we try to sort of repress that we really are motivated for, that we really want, right? Even though consciously we may be like, no, I don't want that. But subconsciously something else is happening differently than what is in your conscious mind. All right, so let's look at some of these. All right, Freud believed that repression, the basic mechanism that banishes anxiety-arousing impulses, enables other defense mechanisms. So look at 6 defense mechanisms, right? All right, so we say, first one, regression, right? So we look at unconscious process employed to avoid anxiety-arousing thoughts or feelings. So with regression, we say retreating to an earlier psychosexual stage. Remember those stages we talked about? Oral, anal, phallic, genital, where some psychic energies remain fixated. So we say they got left behind, some of the energies. So some of our psychic energy got left behind during one of those stages, and we haven't addressed it, and we haven't got that energy out. So if we have regression, then we say, well, we go back to that stage. So we begin to act like kids all over again, right? Maybe we do something that seems very immature, and people are like, oh, this is weird. So here's an example. A little boy reverts to the oral comfort of thumb sucking in the car on the way to his first day of school, right? Like, well, why is he sucking on his thumb? He's too old to be doing that. Well, he's doing it to comfort himself, right? He has anxiety, and let's say he usually regresses to that whatever stage that he had issues in. So here we say an oral stage. Remember, Freud said that in those stages, mom and dad, whoever was around, could either overindulge or underindulge in helping us in those areas. So they could have made us get potty trained too quickly in the anal phase. And you'd be like, well, that's what we call anal retentive. People who are very anal, right? They need things to be a specific way. And if they're not a specific way, they get anxiety. They go crazy, right? Well, they act crazy. They get anxiety, rather. We call those people very anal. You're like, oh, that person's anal. You gotta be a specific way. Why? Because they get potty trained early to where they feel they have to control everything, right? And then we say the opposite. If it's the opposite, and say maybe opposite of anal retentive, we call it, right? So people who are very anal, we say anal retentive. The opposite is what Freud called anal expulsive. So Freud was basically saying, if you get potty trained too late, that you're messy. That your room is gonna be messy, your life is messy, everything you can look about you is completely just messy. Why? Because your basic biological processes, going to the bathroom, were never controlled by your parents. Your parents just kind of give you like, yeah, whatever, you'll get it till you get it. And Freud would theorize like you would kind of respond to society that way. And you would be messy too in society. Freud would even say that you could probably be a criminal, right? Which means you don't respond to authority well because you didn't have authority to tell you to go potty train at the right time in that stage, right? So Freud would say, you know, well, you can look at certain people and say like, oh, let me go see your room, see your car, right? Let me go see your life. Your life is messy, your papers everywhere, right? Freud would theorize that something happened in that phase. Okay, Reaction formation, switching unacceptable impulses to their opposites. Here's an example. Repressing angry feelings, a person displays exaggerated friendliness. So, we could say the opposite of two extremes. So sometimes you come across people who are too friendly, fake friendly, right? You can kind of tell. You're like, what's going on with that? Why is it fake friendliness? Where you're like, really, they're dealing with something that's the complete opposite. That's a complete extreme. They're really angry, right? And so to manage those angry feelings, they found it as best to do the opposite, right? They switch the impulses into the opposite. They exaggerate the opposite. Let's say, yeah, it's going to be the opposite too. You can say, well, whatever causes you anxiety. And then projection, disguising one's own threatening impulses by attributing them to others, right? So projecting. The thief thinks everyone is a thief, which is an old El Salvadoran saying. You know, the world's a horrible place of horrible evil. You're like, no, not really, that's just you. Right? You're placing that on everybody else, right?
It's a horrible place.
Everybody cheats. Like, no, not really. It's probably something you do, right? And so you place your feelings of how you feel onto others as a way for you to cope with your own issues of cheating, lying, stealing, right? That's your way of coping with it. Or defending the ego about your own issues.
You said you read that.
Rationalization, offering self-justifying explanations in the place of the real, more threatening and right? A habitual drinker says she drinks with her friends just to be social. Right? So why would a habitual drinker say, oh, I just go get drinks just to socialize? Only do it in social setting. Right? And like, well, it could be something there of dealing with, oh, you got to drink.
You need to tell me more.
Drinking brings you comfort, but you use your rationalizing.
This is a good story.
And justifying your actions by saying it's just a social setting.
I'm being serious.
All right, then we got displacement, shifting sexual or aggressive impulses towards a more acceptable or less threatening object or person. Here's an example. A little girl kicks the family dog after her mother puts her in a timeout. So you can think of bullying. Right, you're displacing your own anxiety and frustrations onto people who are more vulnerable to you. That's kind of what bullying is, right? You're only going to do that to people you know you can get away with as a means to deal with your own issues, your own anxieties. And then denial, refusing to believe or even perceive painful realities. Here's an example. A partner denies evidence of his loved one's affair. Right? Here's a video. Hey, your boyfriend or your girlfriend's cheating on you. We got it on video. Look. And I'm like, well, maybe you didn't mean to, right? Maybe you had a bad day. That's not him. That's AI. Right? You'll come up with all sort of delusional patterns. Why? Because you don't want to deal with the process of being hurt. You're like, well, that's a reality. Oh, it shapes up my life, my feelings, and I may not want to deal with that. Right? Happens all the time. All right, and we'll move on. We'll see some, before we have our next group come up, some neo-Freudian theories. We'll do it. All right. Anyone ever seen a Rorschach test before? Ink blot test. You know what these are? What they're for?
Just look at them and see what they see.
Yeah. All right, so remember kind of free association. Remember I said with Freud would just say, hey, just talk about stuff or now. Here we're asking like, hey, what do you see? Why do we want to know what you see? Oh, maybe these mean nothing. But maybe, you know, somebody who's very analytical, like, oh, it looks like two notes high-fiving each other. It's like two little L's facing each other, high-five. But maybe someone says, hey, what do you see? Oh my gosh, it looks like my mom when I was like 3, she like hit me in the face. And then we were eating cornflakes, and, you know, someone could go deep diving off the deep end about something, right? And then from there, we're very interested. So maybe we'll show you 100 of these, Once again, see if any themes or patterns come
I
up.
said, I have my headphones
Right?
on.
You start repeating the same stuff on different
I
items.
walk out the elevator, she's sitting right there in front of me.
All right, and okay, so the next theory we would say is humanistic theory, right? So humanistic theory kind of goes against Freud. Say, all right, Freud, you talk way too much about psychosexual stuff, childhood stuff. Maybe that's not what it's all about. Maybe really our personalities are dictated by who we want to be in life, right? Self-determination, self-realization, right? Maybe our personalities, maybe we're all playing a game of who we actually want to be, who we're trying to be at some point in the future, right? Think of whoever you're trying to be. Are you playing that role right now to get to that goal? Are you trying to be super, leadership and super wealthy and powerful or in control? And, so this sort of theory kind of looks like that, right? That we act in the way we do because we strive for self-determination and self-realization. And so we looked at Maslow's before, that triangle with the hierarchy of needs, and then we'll look at Rogers, right? Which is person-centered perspective, right? Looking at growth, promotion, genuineness, empathy, acceptance, self-concept. All right, so one of the things Rogers did was have questionnaires asking about and comparing the ideal self and the actual self, assessing personal growth. And he kind of took this life story approach to see what kind of information came out of there. And so these theories have some good things and some bad things. Some things we can criticize. They seem to be very vague and subjective. Good things, well, they influence a lot of popular psychology, right? Positive psychology, things we look at now. And it kind of in concern with too much self-indulgence, selfishness, and erosion of self-restraint. So if we really think about it, these theories, the criticism is that it focuses way too much on self. Right? And it kind of eliminates like other people impacting your life with Freud. He was saying that basically your parents are like the most important factors, and your early environment are the most important factors. Here we're just saying like self is the most important factor. Right? Also, one of the criticisms is failure to realize the human capacity for evil. Not all of us strive for good. We don't all have self-determination in a positive way. Some of us wants to just see the world burn. Destroy everything and everyone in it. It's a very real reality, right? So there could be some criticisms to that. Then we got trait theories. Personality is defined as stable and enduring behavioral patterns, characteristic behaviors, and conscious motives. So we could say we could learn our personality by looking at our traits, right? So we'll just look at these real quick, right? So we can say here's trait personality according. So we got here, Eysenck and Alford and Ogbert kind of looked at these trait personalities through questionnaires, and we got a few things. So here we got dimensions, right? Dimensions are unstable and stable personalities, introverted versus extroverted, right? And we kind of can fall somewhere. All right, so let's look. If you are introverted and unstable, right? Introverted and unstable. It's like, oh, you're quiet. You're unsociable. You're reserved. You're pessimistic. Right? That's why you're hiding, right? Things are going to go bad. That's why you're hiding from everybody. You're sober. You don't have fun. You're not excited. Right? You're rigid. You don't like to try too many things. Things got to be a certain way, else it causes you anxiety. You're anxious. You're always nervous and waiting for something to happen. And you're moody. Right? You're moody. You don't seem to be in a good mood. And think about that. There could be some personalities like you ever see, like in high school. Like, oh, that person is typical. They don't talk about it. All they wear is all black. They always seem in a bad mood. They're, what? I can't think of the cartoon character. Daria. Okay, now if you are unstable and extroverted, right? So think about some of the personalities, like people you meet. Like if you're unstable, you're touched like, whoa, you touch way too much. Like relax. You're restless. You're shifty. You're like, oh, I can't stand still. You're aggressive. You try to force people to do. You're excitable, maybe too excited, right? Like everything that has to be that exciting. Changeable. You really aren't stable in any of your thoughts. They change like the time. You're impulsive. You don't know how to control your impulsive. You're too optimistic, maybe overly optimistic. You're too active. Right? You do too much stuff. Now let's go down here. We see, which is kind of more of the more positive side of being introverted, extroverted. Okay, if you're stable and introverted, we can say, oh, you're passive, right? You don't really cause a fuss about it. You're careful, you're thoughtful, you're peaceful, controlled, reliable, even-tempered, and calm. We're like, those are all good. Those are things that'll probably get you far in life without a lot of issues. Now, if you're extroverted and stable, we're like, oh, you're very sociable, outgoing, talkative, responsive, easygoing, lively, carefree, and dominant. We're like, those are all good, especially for leaders, right? We say you're probably a really good leader here if you're extroverted and stable. And you possibly could be a good leader here as well, too. You just might have a different approach. But these would be highly unstable characteristics. Briefly, let's go through introversion and extroversion, right? So to keep it simple, introverts lose energy when they interact in social settings. Extroverts gain energy when they interact in social settings. Extroverts kind of steal energy. Introverts get energy stolen from them, and that's kind of how all of that works, right? Introverted leaders outperform extroverted leaders in some contexts, such as when their employees voice new ideas and challenging existing norms. Introverts handle conflict well. They seek solitude rather than revenge. Extroverts tend to seek revenge very quickly. Introverts are not necessarily shy. Not necessarily, right? Maybe they're more reserved and thoughtful, like I say, if they're stable. If they're unstable, it could be shy. Okay, group 2, did you email me your presentation? All right, let's get it going. All right, we got group 2 coming up here.
What the fuck happened in Slide 3? Look at Slide 3. I don't know. What did you do? Rex, what did you do?
Did you read the video?
No.
Wait.
What did you do?
Which slide is that? No, I think it's literally just an extra slide.
Is it?
Yeah, I just didn't do it.
God,
I could take it.
God.
That means someone duplicated it.
Probably you're dumb.
All right, we got Alexia, Horacio, and Vicky coming up here to talk about psychological insights into modern American politics.
Not because of my
Is it good?
Let's go. Projector.
Oh, hell no.
All right, whenever your group is ready, you can make it up.
Sound like shit.
And here's their clicker. You can go to the next slide, just click there right now.
Horatio, Lex, and Vicky. We're presenting to you guys a slideshow of psychological insights into modern American politics. Basically, this presentation will cover the psychological breakdown of modern American politics and how psychology works its way into the modern American political system.
American politics are based upon 4 ways spectrum. many have attempted to define why a person identifies with certain political parties, and will always boil down to psychological perspectives of matter. So what are politics? Politics are defined as the activities associated with the governance of a country or other area, especially the debate or conflict among individuals or parties having or hoping to achieve power. So how does psychology tie into politics? Psychology can be seen as the reasoning behind many different aspects of the political world. Psychology is mainly associated with the politicians themselves. People that tend to be more right-leaning or conservative tend to relate their thinking to their desire to escape social control, whereas the left-leaning side or liberals tend to take more control of the emotional aspects of politics and try to really get into your feelings, whereas the conservative side is more associated with actually gaining power over whatever they want to control.
The both parties, so there's liberal, empathy and compassion. Democrats often emphasize values of empathy, compassion, and social justice. These values can be influenced by psychological factors related to empathy and altruism. Tolerance for diversity. Democrats tend to have a higher tolerance for diversity, which may be influenced by psychological factors related to openness, new experiences, and positive attitudes toward different cultures and identities. Motivation for social change. Some Democrats are motivated by a desire to bring about social change and progress. Psychological factors related to a sense of agency and social activism can play a role in this motivation. Conservative. Individualism. Many Republicans prioritize individualism and limited government intervention. Psychological factors related to self-resilience and a desire of personal autonomy can shape these values. Concern for national security. Some Republicans emphasize strong national defense and law enforcement. Psychological factors related to threat perception and security concerns may play a role in these beliefs. Economical beliefs. Republicans often prioritize economic conservation, which can be influenced by psychological factors related to risk aversion and the importance of economic stability. Psychological insights. Voter behavior. Psychology helps us analyze why people vote the way they do, considering factors like emotion, identity, values, and cognitive basis. Group dynamics. Psychology can help us comprehend the dynamics of political groups, like political parties and movements, and their influence on policy and discourse. Social media and misinformation. Research in psychology helps us understand why social media platforms impact political discourse, including the spread of misinformation and what people post about. Summary. Psychology provides valuable insights into modern American politics by helping us understand the behavior and decision-making processes of people. In conclusion, psychology helps us understand the complexities of modern American politics and individuals' voting choices for political leaders. Those are sources.
All right, thank you. Any questions about politics? So politics is about power, right? And how do you observe that we persuade people to either come to our side of the group or go to another group or something like that? What have your observations?
Appealing to their best interest.
Appealing to the best interests. How do we know what the best interests are? What do people want? Just from what we maybe see online and in demand and stuff like that. Why do you think our country is so divided politically? So polar opposites.
I feel like that's because of the media a lot. Like, I mean, when you actually get down to the definitions of political parties, I mean, they boil down, I think one's like for the people and the other one's just like the more economic side of things. But like when you get into social media, it describes them as just polar opposites. Like you can't be a member of one party and associate with the other party, and it just kind of rips people apart.
Okay. So the job of a politician is, in essence, to what? Is it to deceive people?
I don't want to say it's to deceive people, but I kind of feel like that's what they're doing. Like I feel like a lot of politics is like social manipulation. Like a lot of things are said that aren't gone through with, or just like
So it's almost distorting reality in some way, right? You think of like a lawyer. A lawyer's job is to interpret the law, right? Interpret the law, but you like literally can interpret the law a million ways, right? If you're well trained in how to express words in a million ways and rationalize them and philosophize them, you can convince somebody of a lot of things that aren't necessarily true, right? It becomes subjective. So in essence, politicians' jobs are to deceive those who have little power in the interest of those who have more power, maybe some way, right? Because you figure the best interest of who? The people who give the most money, in essence, right? Because that's where you get most of your votes from, right? So you want to stay in office. So yeah, this is interesting. I like this. Any other questions? No? Who's here, Democrat or who's here, Democrat? Who's Republican? Just kidding. No. All right, thank you. Let's give another round of applause for our second group. All right, so Monday we're gonna have our third exam, so we'll stay home Monday. I'll put the exam review up today, later tonight, so you know what to expect in terms of questions. I'll put the PowerPoint slides up as well too, review the slides, and I'll leave the exam open on Monday, so maybe that night, right? Try to do some hours, try to get a reasonable time frame, and then we will return back here on Wednesday. Any questions before we get out of here?